Okay, Paul, thanks very much. The previous part you talked about what you like to study, etc. Do you use private ratings apart from the Racing Post ratings, and if so, which ones?
I had a brief spell where I used a rating service which I cannot for the life of me remember the name of. Everyone was telling me how great it was. I didn't get on with it, and I don't know why I didn't get on with it. I mean, I think it was me. Something, since the Racing Post website started, that's all I've ever used, and that's what I was happy with. So that's what I'm happy with, and that's what I stick with now. I mean, I certainly wouldn't poo-poo the efforts of other ratings people, because I know lots of people are very shrewd, and they use them. So it's each to your own. But it's almost like growing up with one thing and that's it. And for better or worse, I'm happy with it.
Okay, I remember the days of Superform, getting the sheet once a week come through and put it into your file. Is it still like that with you, or do you use professional tools, modern tools these days?
Well, it's all website, isn't it? It's the whole lot. I don't have anything written down. I don't make any notes on the web. I just click on, look at the numbers, and click on to the next horse, one after the other. So no, it's all there for me. I don't have to, I don't have to carry bags around with loads of notes or anything like that.
Okay, so other things that people look at. How much value do you place on speed ratings?
Speed ratings. Now, I know that I should make more effort, because I know a lot of people are very shrewd when it comes to speed ratings, but it's just something I've never really got to grips with. And sometimes I think I try, but when I like racing as a sport. I don't really want it to be spoken about as a science, even though it can be. You know what I mean? And I have a try myself. I remember talking to Simon Rowland some time for him about some timings that I'd done, thinking I was really clever, and he went to me at the end and he said, "Well, actually, that doesn't mean anything." He said, "You know what I mean?" And I do sometimes get a stopwatch out. You get an online stopwatch out, and I time a few things. But I'll be honest, I don't think I'm doing it properly. I don't think I know exactly what I'm doing. I did discover that Don Poley was a slow horse when I timed the RSA chase a few years ago, though, because from 3 out to the line he was miles slower than Cause of Causes, who ran in the 4 miler at the same day, and much slower after the last. Yeah, everyone thought Don Poley was a Gold Cup horse, and he couldn't possibly be.
So what about sectional time? Did you mention Simon Rowland's?
Yeah, again, it's something I should pay more attention to. I do read bits and pieces that come up on Twitter, and I do find them interesting. And I do go back and have a look at the race and all that, but I'm just not a clock man, really.
Okay, what about breeding and stallion statistics?
I quite like. I put a chart in the paper years ago. Stallions with their strike rates on different grounds and all that can be found on the Racing Post website. If you look at the horse profile, click on the stallion. I look on that all the time. Yeah, what are the strike rates on certain grounds? People will tell you, for instance, that Pivotal is a soft ground sire, but his strike rate is pretty much exactly the same from one extreme to the other. And what most people don't remember is I think he only ran on soft ground once in his life and hated it, and he was a proper fast ground horse. But so you do get some people that will pigeonhole a certain stallion as being one or other, but the stats are out there. You can have a look.
Okay, talking to stats, other people sort of come up with things that go back sort of decades. Do you no sort of 3-year-old has won this and heavy going and that sort of thing? Do you take notice?
I think some can be interesting. Obviously, I think most SP stats are nonsense, because so what? Especially when it comes to handicaps. The favourite hasn't won this for 20 years. Well, the favourite's 7-1 anyway. It's not, it doesn't take a genius to work out that a run of 20 losers ain't a big deal. But there are other ones. Older horses in races like the Gold Cup, Champion Hurdle, etc. Really, really good horses just haven't been able to win those sort of races. And I think, there are certain characteristics that are required to win certain races, and you can see that through history for sure. And I do like looking back and seeing if I can find something a little bit different. I like using Raceform Interactive. Doing a few studies and. Whether it's just jockeys and trainers or a bit of breeding or history, how far horses have been beaten in certain races. I can find some things that are interesting there. So yeah, I do look.
So you mentioned that. That's quite a good tool, that Raceform Interactive. Do you sometimes have ideas and just punch them in and see what comes up?
Yeah, it's funny. I did one a few years ago where there was a race it's a sprint handicap at York, and the first two, it was a class 2, really valuable. The first two were like you know, I think it was 5 lengths back to the third, and I thought that can't happen very often in a big field Class 2. And I looked at it, and I only found a handful, and the horses that had been in the first 2 were all about £20 better than they were in a few weeks later. And you know, the one horse was the horse that was second was Dancing Star in this York race. So I tipped it up at Newmarket, and of course it ended up winning at Newmarket, and then won the Stewards Cup next time out. Did exactly what history said it would do. You know what I mean? So it is worth looking at things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you like the big handicaps, etc. How do you take trainer, and I put this in inverted commas, shrewdness into account?
That's a hard one. I mean, you think, oh, there's such and such a horse, such and such a trainer who's really good at laying them out for the handicaps, you know. But none of their strike rates are that good. You know, sometimes they have a horse. You have to have the horse in the first place, and then you can see how they are campaigned. I mean, you know, sometimes it can be fairly obvious when there's a decent horse coming up through the ranks. They pick their races, the time between the races, etc., and they're going forwards. And you know, the top trainers, they place them really, really well.
Would there be a type of horse that you call a cliff horse that you would avoid, anything that sort of puts you away time and time again?
I've got loads of cliff horses, and you know, again, it's one of those, you know, if I had a tracker, it'd be full of those bleeding things. Yeah, I mean, I have cliff horses. I have horses that I just like. Sometimes that I would back, and you really should avoid them. The horses that you want to avoid more than anything else are the horses that are unlucky. Because everybody's seen that they were unlucky last time, and everybody's going to want to back them, and they'll always be too short. And while you'll back some winners, you know, unlucky horses are the ones that are just going to make you unlucky in the long run.
I remember going back in the day, you'd go through and tick off each race, a little mark every time there was a winner thrown up from it. Obviously the most obvious way of seeing if a form line's any good, but are there less obvious ways that you look in that you can sort of say that's a good race?
The speed figure guys will tell you sectionals and times and whatever, but it's funny, I looked at, you know, there were 3 horses, and I fell for the last one recently in the Mill Reef, chairman of the board, but there are 3 horses that have run really good speed figures as 2-year-olds this season. First time out, won easily, all went off short prices in group or list races next time, all 3 got absolutely chinned. I do think, you know, collateral form, just, you know, seeing how many horses have come out and run really well is probably the best way to do it.
Okay, then finally on the form, what difference in your calculations would you put in a flat race between a top jockey and a top apprentice when you're trying to work out sort of pounds or whatever?
That's finding the right apprentice, isn't it? Because, you know, £3 or £4, £5 can make a hell of a difference when you've got a proper decent apprentice. And there's some really good ones come out every year. I mean, this kid Jason Watson really, really is good. You know what I mean? And for a while he was claiming that was gold dust, and I don't think he's going to have any problems whatsoever making the top rank. And then you get others that come along and you think, well, yeah, he's worth his £3, and then, you know, we might go overboard about them. And then the next year you realise, well, hang on a minute, he's found his level. And once they found that level, you can look back and say, well, actually, that £3 probably wasn't worth all that much. You know, you've got to get the right apprentice. You've got to latch on to the really, really good ones that are going to come through. But there aren't that many that do come through every year. Otherwise, we'd be having great jockeys every single year. It doesn't happen like that. A lot of the top ones stay around for ages. So I would say, unless you really, really think this is a top-notch jockey, they're claiming that for a reason, and I wouldn't take too much into account.
Well, how much would you put into account for professional jockeys between themselves then?
For me, it's always horse first. You know, I mean, you know, I have had a look at certain jockeys on certain tracks. There are certain jockeys with terrible strike rates at certain tracks, and I'm sure there's a mindset thing when they're going somewhere where they have rubbish records at. But then I have opposed horses for that reason and seen them win at the same time. So I try and boil it down to the horse. As long as it's not a jockey that I think, oh my God, I can't stand them, and I really haven't got many of them. I would say it's horse first and take the jockey as it is.
Okay, you say you take it very seriously, and obviously it's a job you have to. How much would you beat yourself up, not financially, afterwards, if you've made a decision, you've put someone up and then it's panned out differently? How much would you go away and stew about it for a while? Oh, I should have sort of worked it out that way.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it annoys that. It really annoys the hell at me. There was a horse that won at Cheltenham recently called Relentless Dreamer, and he was the first one on my list. And I ended up tipping a horse at half the price. which came nowhere. And of course, Relentless Dreamer won at 14, 16 to 1. That really annoyed me. So I mean, missing a winner was worse than backing a loser. I think, you know, much worse. Making that wrong decision at the last minute, it can really annoy you. And of course, you know, I do feel a deep sense of embarrassment when I'm on a losing run. I think anybody who tips does. I think when's the next winner coming from? And when you make the wrong decision, it hurts. It has to.
So how do you deal with it psychologically when you're having a bad run?
Good question. I don't know is the answer. Drink. No, I mean, the one thing you got to do is stay level-headed and try and keep on doing the same. If it goes on for too long, then whatever you're doing before doesn't work anymore, and then you've got to try and change it. But I think that you've got to stick to your guns to start with, and say, well, look, this is my MO. This has worked for so long. I'm going to keep on going. But there has to be a time limit on anything. You know, I'm sure there have been loads of tipsters in the past who've suddenly lost it a little bit. I thought to myself, I've got to do something else now. And I think you've got to be fluid. You've got to be versatile and make the decision to change if it's not going right.
A few of the professional punters we've been lucky enough to speak to have all sort of said you need to keep adapting, you need to keep stepping ahead. Slightly with form study, would it be that same problem that it evolves, or? Yeah,
I mean, it's hard to say how much form study can evolve, other than getting involved with timings, etc. If we had sectional times in every race course in Britain, I'm sure loads of people would end up getting involved in them because they're there and freely available. They're not freely available for us. You've got people who work really, really hard to do them themselves. Am I prepared to do that? I'll be honest, no. So it's got to, you know, if it's there and available for you, but otherwise you've just got to do what's there and what you've got. And you know, I look at everything. I look at videos, ground form, etc. I don't see how much more you can do to make it much more complicated.
And that's brilliant to my final question on the form study. Is there a point where you say, right, I've done enough now on this race, I'm confusing the hell out of myself, that's it, that's a selection?
Absolutely. I'll be honest to tell you, the harder I have to look, the less likely I am to find a winner. I mean, sometimes they come to me straight away, just like that. Like, you know, I can look at a race card, and even though I will look at every single horse, I can know what I'm going to tip. And I actually like it when it's like that, because you've got a certain amount of confidence in you as well, haven't you? You know, I don't just see this horse, that's going to win that race, and then you go about confirming that view by looking at the horses. You know, I will try to tell myself, right, you know, you fancy this, now try and find a reason why it can't win. Not very easy to do once you've got that feeling in your head. But you know, I'm a field punter as much as a form studier as well. You know, and I like that sort of gut feeling when I've got one. And yeah, you can go round and round in circles, like, you know what I mean? So there is a point where you just have to say, nope, that's it, I've had enough.